Hello everyone, this is Leo from the Monkeys Making Misplace. I will be doing the Lascaria deck profile. Unfortunately, Cat wasn't able to make it, so we are I'm recording this for him. It's fine. I mean, we were, like I mentioned in the Direful Doll deck profile, we both kind of been playing these decks, so we both kind of know about them. Cat will be the one playing this in the Friday's gameplay, so don't worry about that. I'm just doing the deck profile for him. Obviously, the Lascaria ride line is just all her, so there's nothing too much you can do here. The ride line's pretty good. It gets you blitzes, and then let's talk about the main girl herself, Lascaria. So her first ability is a continuous turn your turn. If you have 3 or more units with Veleno in their card names, all of your units with Veleno gain +5, so that includes her. So really, you only need 2 other Veleno units to get the +5 to your units. And then if you have 5 and your opponent's Vanguard is at grade 3 or greater, she gains a crit. So if you're going second, you get a little extra buff if you commit a bit more to the board, right? But the best of ability on her is that second ability that says at the end of battle your unit was attacked and was not hit. If you played a blitz order that battle, you draw a card. If you did not countercharge this turn, you countercharge 1. So you might be wondering, well, how do we play multiple blitz orders? I mean, it's kind of hard to do that ability more than one time. Well, they did provide her with an order in this set that gives you the ability to play more than one, up to about 6 blitz orders in a turn. So let's talk about the deck profile. We obviously play 3 extra copies of Lascaria Veleno to get Persona Ride. Obviously, this deck is not going to have too much crazy stuff since it has a defensive mechanic on it. You're probably going to be tied down to 3 attacks for a bit of the game, depending on if you can get access to this next card we're going to talk about, which is Eraphis. We play 4 copies of him. He is the way this deck gets multi-attack. So once per turn, at the end of the battle, you have grade 3 or greater Vanguard with Lascaria in its card name attacked. You can, if your opponent's Vanguard is grade 3 or greater, so again, you can't do this if you're going first, you can only do it if you're going second. You can counterblast 1, stand it, and if you have 3 or more units with Veleno in its card name, it gets +5. So add that to the +5 that Lascaria gives you, you get a 23k unit. On Persona Ride, you got a 33k unit, which is pretty good. We have to play as many of these, or many copies of this guy as we can, because you want to be able to at least have one. Thanks to Lascaria's ability, you should always have at least 1 CB. As long as you blitz order 1 attack during your opponent's turn, you should at least have a CB. So at least getting one of these guys off is pretty good. Definitely a good card. It's probably not a card that's going to get taken out of the deck anytime soon. Then we look at our first blitz order, and that's Evergreen Transfer. So Soul Blast 1, choose one of your units, and it gets +25k until the battle. Then you choose one of your Vanguards, and it gets all of your opponent's 100 million or greater units get -1 crit until the turn. This is more of just because the Regalis piece is a blitz order, so we kind of wanted to play it. I know a lot of decks don't really play this blitz order, but we thought, hey, it's in theme, so might as well do it. Moving on to the grade 2s, we play 4 copies of Milile. Sorry, knocked the camera there. This grade 2 is when it's placed on rear, other than during the battle phase. If you have a grade 3 or greater Vanguard with Lascaria in its card name, you can discard a card from your hand, then choose a card with a different card name from this unit from drop, call it to rear if it's a grade 3 or less unit card with Veleno in its card name, or you can put it into your hand if it's a blitz order. So a way to recur things. One thing that I will say that I did wish this card had is a way to get boost, because you'll notice as we get along, there's not a lot of Veleno units, and if you want to have 5 with the grade 3s, 2 grade 3s on the front row, there's no real place to put this. So if she had gained boost in some form, that would have been really cool, so that you could have a big 15k booster, because she kind of just sits there after you do her ability. So I really wish they had given her some way to like get a boost, but we are getting more Veleno units in set 2, so I can't complain. I just wish for right now that we had it. Then for the next grade 2, we played 3 copies of Hallucinatory Morpho. This card is probably a little bit more expensive than it was a while ago, but it's got 2 abilities. When it attacks, if your drop has a blitz, you can Soul Blast 1, it gets +10, so it's a 20k attacker, which is pretty good. And then at the end of the battle, it attacked the Vanguard, you can Counterblast 1 and bind it to search your deck for 1 grade 2 or greater blitz order without Regalis piece, reveal it and put it into your hand and shuffle your deck. If your drop does have a blitz though, you can search for a normal order. Not really going to come up in this deck. We don't really play any normal orders per se, so we're just playing blitzes. And it's so good because it gets us the card. Obviously it is using a CB, but like with Lascaria, we should be able to get it back if we really need to. These are usually your early game things. You want to get these to get as many blitz orders in your hand as you can, and just be able to use them as quickly as possible. Then we move on to the grade 2 blitz orders, which we've got a couple here. The first one is Lascaria's new blitz order. It's not tied to her, but they literally put her on the art even though it doesn't say or reference Lascaria in any way, besides the art, obviously. This card was kind of built with Lascaria in mind. So for an Energy Blast 2, you can choose a unit being attacked and it gets plus 20k until end of that battle. And then you can play one more Blitz Order this turn. So when you play this card, the number you can play increases. So you can play multiple Blitz Orders in that one attack. It's not like you play this and you can now use another Blitz Order in the next battle. You can play these consecutively if you really need to. You're probably never going to do that because this is just a 20k shield. So why would you? You're going to be using these as your setup piece, or essentially starter Blitz Orders. You're probably going to throw this and then something else, like a shield or a trigger or something, just to get a bit more shield. But this way you can get a draw and you can get a counter charge the first time you use it. The draw obviously is every battle you negate with, or every battle you use a Blitz Order and the attack doesn't hit, so that's pretty good. Then we've got a couple more Blitz Orders. We've got 2 copies of Sweet Honey Garden. This is another play with Soul Blast 1. Choose one of your units and it gets plus 15 until that battle. If your drop has a Blitz Order, it gets plus 25 instead of plus 15. So a 25k shield, slightly bigger than the one we just saw. Obviously, you do need to have a Blitz Order in drop, but you're probably going to play this Blitz Order after you've played the others, so you should be fine. It's just a 25k shield. We got 2 copies of it for right now. I could definitely see you playing more of it. Then the last grade 2 Blitz Order is Fine Drink of Abolishment for Sins. So this one is another Soul Blast 1. You draw a card, then you choose one of your units and it gets plus 5 until that battle for each order card with a different card name in your drop and bind zone in total. This one's more for if you don't want to waste such a big shield like Sweet Honey Guarding or the other one, right? This is probably at best going to be something like a 15k shield or a 10k shield, really, if you have at least 2 in the drop. But if you're just trying to block a small attack, there's no reason for you to use one of the bigger ones and waste it. This way you get to draw 2 cards off of it, because you draw one for this card and then you draw again for Lascaria, so it's essentially, it draws you 2 cards, right? Your opponent's always going to have at least one little dinker attack that you're not going to need that much shield for, and it's going to feel like a waste if you use one of the bigger Blitz Orders and then don't have that for maybe a next turn when you really need it, right? Then we have 4 copies of Fiore, which is the last Veleno unit. There was a total of 4 in the set, which not great considering that one of them is our boss monster, but we are getting, I believe, a total of 3 or 2 more in the next set. So, you know, we are definitely getting more. It's fine that we got so few as long as we have confirmed more. But let's quickly look at her. So when she's placed on rear, if you have Vanguard with Lascaria in its card name, you can counter blast 1, check top 5. You can choose a Veleno unit, add it to your hand, or you can choose a Blitz Order and then add it to your hand. She also gains plus 2k if you have a Vanguard with Lascaria in its card name, so it's a 10k booster. Combine that with Lascaria's plus 5, so she's a 15k booster, which is pretty good. I just wish the grade 2 also got boosted in some form, because it really it creates awkward boards where sometimes you have to call a grade 2 just to have the 5. So it's a little annoying, but you know, we are getting more. I can't complain about that. Then for the last couple grade 1s, we've got 3 copies of Hero Pineapple. So when the attack it boosted hits a Vanguard, you retire it, choose a grade 2 Blitz Order without Regalis piece from your drop, put it into your hand, then choose a card from your hand and discard it, right? So there, you'll probably have discard targets for it. This is just a way to get yourself some blitzes back to your hand, as well as putting some pressure on your opponent to have to guard your attacks. So sometimes it feels like your opponent's like, ah, whatever, I can just take your little dinky attacks, because you might not have a lot of power sometimes. So this is a way to force your opponent to guard, because if they don't, you get to use your Blitz Orders, and if you get to use your Blitz Orders, then your opponent's not going to be able to kill you. So that's why I play this guy, 3 just on hit pressures. And then since we're already being defensive, I thought, why not play 2 copies of Elmadar? We're never really using that Soul Charge 2. This deck doesn't really need Soul. This deck, this is more for the 20k shield that this card can be. We don't really use our ride line for anything like that, so don't really need it. So that's why this 2 copies of this guy is just fine. We can definitely just use this to get a 20k shield, which means combined with the Blitz, we got a 40k shield, which is pretty good. Lastly, well, obviously we have your obligatory 3 Perfect Guards and Sanctitude. This is one of the few decks where I would say you definitely do want to play Sanctitude, because it's a Blitz Order, so it kind of synergizes with all the things your deck is doing, right? Obviously you can't search Sanctitude, but you can hit it off of like the grade 1, the grade 2 from the ride line, or you can hit it from the grade 1, things like that. So it's not awful. finding it wise, but it does help with the deck a lot, as well as just being a blitz order that the deck can just use. Then finally triggers, we've got your Lascaria OT, just because it just does all the things, you know. It's pretty cool. Then moving on, we play 3 fronts just to be more defensive. We want to have as much shield as we can so that we don't have to waste as many cards. We want all our blitz orders to be at least 1-for-1s. They're not going to be a lot of the times, but if you can essentially waste 2 cards and get at least 1 back, then it doesn't feel as bad, right? And then we've got a total of 8 crits, because since our Vanguard is already critical, we want to threaten our opponent by being like, hey, if I get at least 1 crit off my drive check, I'm doing 3 damage, and you should be afraid of that, right? Because not only will you do 3 damage, if you have at least one of the grade 3 rear guards, then you get another 2 attacks after that, right? And then you've got your generic heal triggers. You can definitely play effect triggers if you think that your meta really needs them, but for us, we just kind of want to play these because they're kind of just, don't got to think about it too much. If something just becomes way too prevalent, you know, then obviously switch to the heals that would correspond for that meta, but for right now, I think this is just fine. Lascaria is a definitely fun deck. It's also very strong, in my opinion. It is incredibly fun. It is incredibly strong. We are going to get way more Veleno units. If I'm remembering correctly, we're getting 3 new Veleno units, which will help kind of pad out some of the names that we need so that we don't have to create such awkward columns sometimes. But with that out of the way, we are done. Thank you all for watching. I hope you guys stick around and watch the gameplay on Friday.